Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Lord Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Quick note, we are going to be off next week. No shows next week here on the channel, but we will be returning the week after that, so please don't forget about us. We're just taking a little time off. Let's get to today's case. Of course, Case Cracked is the show where we look into a mystery and the critical pieces that help solve that mystery. Today's case was brought to us by a longtime supporter of the channel, Christy Groves, and we're calling this one, Go and Find This Boy. 18-year-old Brendan Thomas Santo lived in Rochester Hills, Michigan, and attended school at Rochester Adams High School, where he played lacrosse and hockey. In 2021, after graduation, he made the decision to move over 2 hours away from his family to attend college at Grand Valley State University while majoring in cybersecurity. He would miss his dog, Abby, the most, but comforted himself with the thought that he would be home on holidays to see her. Everyone liked Brendan. He had a quick smile and a great sense of humor. He also loved to cook and share those meals with his friends. At the start of his freshman year, he was stressed, as anyone his age would be, but was looking forward to his bright future. On October 29, 2021, he went to nearby Michigan State University in East Lansing, spending the weekend with friends and planning on enjoying the big football game between MSU and University of Michigan. At around midnight, he left his friends on campus to walk to the Brody neighborhood, which was a little less than a half a mile from the dorms at Yakeley Hall. Everyone remembers seeing him near the dorm, but he never made it to his destination. There were many people on campus that weekend, and his friends didn't miss him until the next morning. When he couldn't be tracked down, and it was found that his phone was either dead or turned off, he was reported missing to the MSU campus police, who in turn called his parents, Brad and Wendy. They were on campus an hour later, along with investigators from the Ingham County Sheriff's Office. When his parents arrived, they told investigators that they had talked to Brendan the day before and he was in good spirits. Text messages received by his friends also back this up. His friends also said that Brendan had texted several people to let them know that he was on his way. Although he was intoxicated, he was in a very good mood. MSU police stated that his car was still sitting where he had parked it the day before. They saw no indication that he left the East Lansing area. His credit cards and accounts had not been used since he disappeared. Unfortunately, CCTV cameras in the area were not working that night. An MSU spokesperson claimed that the cameras had been taken offline weeks before his disappearance. The MSU campus is a beautiful school to attend, with the Red Cedar River running for 2 miles through the campus itself. When searches of the dorms and town turned up nothing, authorities began to wonder if Brendan could have fallen into the river. In the days and weeks that followed, K-9 teams were brought in. Investigators used drones, helicopters, boats, civilian divers, and of course sonar. Several areas of interest on the river had been identified. Cell phone records showed that the last ping Brendan's phone received was around midnight. A Facebook page dedicated to Brendan was started, and a reward was offered for information leading to him. Leads were followed, but investigators found no indication of foul play, and the Red Cedar River continued to hold their focus. Investigators believed that Brendan had drowned in the river, and if so, his body would now be working its way downstream as they searched. Soon, winter set in, and it became impossible to search the frozen water. The investigation had stalled, but the Santo family was about to get the help they needed from a private investigator named Ryan Robeson. Ryan, a 26-year veteran private investigator, runs a company called the Robeson Group, which has investigators nationwide. Ryan himself is based out of Troy, Michigan. His wife, Katie, had watched Brendan's case from the beginning and was touched by the family's plight. Ryan said, quote, "One night, she just looked at me and said, 'If anyone can find Brendan, you can. Ryan, go and find this boy.'" An email was sent to Brendan's father, Brad, and after a phone call to him on New Year's Eve, it was decided that Ryan would drive out to meet the family and take up the search for Brendan. Brendan's father learned that Ryan was also a father, And as fathers, he believed that Ryan wouldn't stop looking for his son. At first, he studied different portions of the river in order to narrow down possible areas to search. For almost 2 weeks, he worked his way down the river before focusing all of his efforts on one specific spot. There was one area in particular that he felt Brendan could have become entangled in. This spot consisted of a huge deadfall. Trees, limbs, and other trash had floated downriver all year and collected in the spot on the bend of the river. By January, they were frozen and practically cemented together. Mixed into that debris were Halloween pumpkins. And if they had come to rest here at about the same time Brendan did, it was a good sign that he could be there as well. Using ice picks, chainsaws, and axes, he worked some of the debris free. At one point, he thought he hit the ground, only to find that it was just more debris, and he still had about 8 more feet to go. He then started to drill holes in the ice and use underwater cameras that could only see 16 inches in whatever direction they were pointed. Investigators had planned an extensive search of that same area on January 24th, but Ryan beat them to it. On the 20th, at about 11 p.m., while reviewing camera footage, one frame grabbed his attention. One camera showed the image of what looked like Brendan's shoes, a pair of Chuck Taylor All-Star Converses with a red heart peeking up out of the sole of the shoe near the heel. An hour later, he contacted the Santo family, who then called 911. Ryan traveled to the spot with investigators to give them a feel of exactly where Brendan's shoe was spotted. They then called in the team that were prepping for the planned search on the 24th, and they got to work a little early. Within hours, Brendan's body was found and pulled from the water 3 months after he disappeared. An autopsy would show that Brendan died from an accidental drowning with acute ethanol intoxication listed as a contributory condition to his death. The State News, an MSU student paper, reports that, quote, toxicology showed that Brendan had a blood ethanol concentration of 0.22, close to 3 times the legal limit, and a urine ethanol concentration of 0.301. Dental records confirmed his identity, and his death was ruled an accidental drowning. The Santo family was heartbroken by the news of Brendan's death, but were thankful to be able to have closure. In order to help others avoid the same fate, the Santos started a Change.org petition that asked MSU to install barriers, lighting, and signs in the area that Brendan was believed to have gone missing in. MSU answered by installing a fence at a part of the river that has a steep embankment in what they called a temporary safety measure. They also installed 300 new cameras on campus. Because most of Brendan's personal items were found with him, investigators still feel that foul play was not involved, but they say they will continue to work to fill in the blanks of that night. Of his involvement in Brendan's case, Ryan had this to say, quote, my wife followed this case since day one. She knew more about this case than probably anyone. Everyone is thanking me nonstop, but I'm not there if she doesn't say that to me. And without that line, there is no Brendan going home now. I may have found him, but Katie, my wife, is the reason he is able to go home. Brendan was and is loved by so many people. He was truly a wonderful young man, a unique and very special person. Case cracked. I would like to thank People.com, abcnews.go, ourmidland.com, wilkes.com, mlive.com, digitymemorial.com, nbcnews.com, statenews.com, and woodtv.com. But of course, the biggest thank you goes to Christy Arnhart for researching and writing up today's case. And here she is now to discuss it with us. Well, Christy, here we are, unfortunately, saying this story again. And I've been bringing this up. I'm trying to get the word out there. We talk about it here on the channel all the time, but I just did an appearance on Crawl Space. I brought it up there as well. There's several of these stories that we wind up covering every year, and I just don't know how to get the message out there. It's a very unfortunate occurrence that we lose young men in particular in cases like this. Mm-hmm. The CDC reports that nearly 80% of people who die from drowning are male. So we're already talking about a large sample set, and then include this younger age and include alcohol. That stat is still a big chunk of that 80%. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we featured more cases than I can count at this point, seriously, using this pattern from college campuses to neighborhood bars. It's really heartbreaking. What do you think, Christy? How do we address
Well,
this?
it's something I've noticed too. I mean, we do way too many shows that involve these factors. And maybe it's because we work with missing people cases and whatnot, but it would just seem to me that if you've got the perfect storm here, like colleges and a lot of these bars do, that you would make sure there was some kind of fence up to deter people. I mean, this, if they'd have had a fence and a gate that locked at night, I very seriously doubt he would have tried to climb it in his state
Yeah,
for whatever reason, you know?
yeah, but it's it is tough when you're talking about 2 miles. You're talking about a lot of area to try to fence in. There's
It
there's
is.
another approach that I've been talking to some other content creators about, and especially maybe for bars located closer to rivers like that. Like maybe there's
Mhm.
just some kind of signage or some little put it in the bathroom. Like
Yeah.
instead of the advertisement you're running in front of the urinal, just have some little, hey, if you're between this age and this age, just be aware that this can happen and don't leave your friends alone. Don't go walking off on your own. Be very cautious around these water sources, something. But I get the flip
Mhm.
side of that. Like, what business is going to want, like, hey, we're going to put up a sign about how dangerous we are in the business? I get it. It's just,
Mm.
I don't know how to get this addressed, but it's breaking my
I don't
heart because
either.
at this point, Christy, like we're talking about this, some other family is going to go through this
Yeah.
like in the next week, in the next month, and it's going to keep happening over and over. So it's just, I don't know. If you guys have ideas on this, please let us know in the comments down below. I don't
Yes,
know
please.
how do we just raise exposure to this, but back to the other points on the case here. Christy, in the show notes, you mentioned that it seems like MSU police weren't exactly open about Ryan, the PI, Ryan Robinson's contribution to the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was mentioned on social media. It was well known around the area. According to them, they may have a good reason, according to the police department.
Sure.
MSU PD Inspector Chris Rosman explained it like this. He said, immediately after Brendan was located, we weren't sure if Ryan or the Santo family wanted this information known publicly. Our original news release said that we have worked in collaboration with the Santo family and their supporters, and that partnership was essential in our effort to find Brendan. Not only is that statement true, we cannot thank Ryan enough for his relentless efforts. So they did give him credit when credit was due, but yeah,
Yeah.
I see why they kept that quiet in the beginning.
I'm kind of on the fence about it just because if they're talking about a news release, that's something where they had like a public information officer or they had some type of mouthpiece for their organization to actually sit down and like put together that message to send out. Like, couldn't you have given a phone call to the guy that was there with your crew? Like, you
Well,
guys were working together. Like,
yeah.
like if I get that it probably wasn't written by someone that was actually at the site and they couldn't just like, hey, Ryan, we're going to be announcing this soon. Do you
Yeah.
want us to include you? The other thing that gets me about that is just like, this is a guy that has a business of doing private investigator work and he does something this amazing, you know, spends all this time out there. We didn't even really get into this in the script. There's a really, really good video. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it later, but
Mhm.
he wasn't just like out there with shovels and stuff. Like he was risking his life. He had to get to
Mhm.
particular parts of that ice and he's literally building like these wood bridges and stuff so he can get out there safely and drill these holes. There was so much effort going on there that,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of personally, it just miffs me a little bit that this guy didn't get all the credit due.
Oh yeah, and it miffed me too. And it
Yeah.
does feel like they were just trying to take a little credit there. But they saved themselves with the press release, I guess.
Yeah, 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 I guess so. Um, so what about the cameras, Christy? Did you find out why they weren't active? Because, I'm here in college campus, their camera's not working. Like, that sounds dangerous all over it.
I'm going to try not to be too rude here because this to me sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
An MSU spokesperson told News 10 the camera had been taken offline weeks before Santo left the building because it used a Chinese computer chip that was banned by a 2020 federal law. That law does not allow federal money to be used for equipment that poses, quote, national security risks, which includes the chip in that camera.
Okay, I just want to break the statement down a little bit. I understand that there's a chip in there that might be a risk. How is that a national security risk if it's on a college campus? I don't understand.
I don't have any idea.
And if you do identify that you have a piece of equipment like that you need to remove it with a replacement. What's this idea that just, we're just going to shut it down and that's enough? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And outside of that, for them to have this reasoning, which says specifically that federal money can't be used for equipment, which we know that a lot of these colleges have federal money as part of their budgeting. Mm-hmm. That money's already been spent. The camera's already up. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
It's ridiculous. And it took this kid's death for them to get 300 more.
Yeah. Well, and I bet basically what it was, I don't even know that that's 300 more. I bet that was basically just the kick in the pants they needed for, we got to get all the cameras replaced here. So, Yeah, it might be that they were already the cameras that were in place at the school.
I hope they replaced them because none of the chips were working in them.
Well, yeah, because, national security risk of watching some kid walk across a college campus. I don't get it. Unfortunately, Christy, and we hear about this not just on college campuses. How many times do we hear stories where, there's cameras there, but they just weren't working?
Very true.
Yeah. Thankfully, we do have Ryan step in for this case and start working on it.
Well, and he did such a fantastic job.
Yeah.
It just reportedly Ryan and the investigators were concerned about this same area, but for some reason Ryan gets it done first.
Yeah.
He dedicated 80% of his time out there to that area and working to get the camera angles just right so he could confirm that Brendan was there.
Yeah, there's something interesting there. Like, I almost wish, and thankfully there is some good documentation on this. One of them being that video segment that Christy Groves actually sent in to us. And we'll have a link to it down in the description box down below. It's kind of Ryan telling you the story of how he does it. And I almost hope that Ryan documented some of the things that nudged him for the particular holes that he was drilling and the angles that he was trying to get, those types of considerations, because I really haven't heard of a case be solved kind of in this manner before, where you've got someone working, an ice source like that and being able to figure it out. Like, I mean, did he do it like a grid search? Did he literally take a photo of this and mark it off and say, okay, now I'm going here, now I'm going here, now I'm going here? There's just so many questions, I think, and so many more interesting things that we could learn from his experience on this. But
definitely.
Yeah. Well, Christy, thank you. And Christy Groves, thank you as well.
Yes.
Thank you both for bringing this story to us. And if you've got some ideas about it, I want to hear them in the comments down below. We asked a lot of questions. We got a big issue that's going on. It's not just national, it's worldwide. How do we raise exposure to these stories and hopefully save some lives? So I want to see your ideas on that in the comments down below. And thank you, Christy. I've got some other people to thank right now. Thank you, PayPal supporters Hillary Green, Brandy Fry, and Sigrid E. O'Hearn. For over 6 years, we've always run limited commercial ads here on YouTube. We can't do that without support. If you'd like to help the channel keep going and growing, please visit lordnarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or buy us a coffee like Candy Bishop recently did. We know that learning about the mechanisms that help support and find justice in these cases is important to understand the many unsolved cases we also cover, and we really appreciate your support in allowing us to continue doing that. Remember, once again, no shows next week, but we will be back after that. We appreciate your patience as we take a little downtime. Also remember, you can get another Lord and Art story every week on the Seriously Mysterious podcast. A new episode's coming tomorrow, and every Tuesday after that, even next week. Visit seriouslymysterious.com and subscribe on your favorite podcatchers. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon below if you want to catch one of our weekly Secret Studio live shows. And of course, I'll be back with a new unsolved mystery for you on Friday, right here on the Lord and Arts channel.